Welcome to Friday Sweats. It is Super Bowl week, fellas. I am back from New Orleans. I got my beads. We've got some Super Bowl picks, and we got a big day coming up on Sunday for Adam and myself, especially as Eagles fans. So great show for you here today. I'm with Josh Appelbaum. I'm with Adam Rosenberg. What's up, fellas? How are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good, man. James, I want to hear all about your trip and what's going on in New Orleans. And I just tell you right now, I am in a place you would never expect me to be. I am in Roswell, New Mexico, tagging along with my wife. She won an award. They sent her out here to Albuquerque. We just drove from Albuquerque to Roswell. Had to take my picture at the Welcome to Roswell sign. Guys, it's all about the Super Bowl, but I want you to know I'm going to get answers to what happened in 1947, and I'm going to report back to you. I want to believe. I'm here to find some information.
Josh is going to get the alien. Josh is going to find out if aliens are controlling the refs that are rigging the NFL and all of that.
Emerson. He said it was voodoo, and I'm like, voodoo or aliens, either or. I think it could work.
So normally in real life, I live actually like 10 minutes. Well, I wouldn't even say 10 minutes. I live 5 minutes from Josh down the street. But he and I are both not in home cities. I actually drove back to my parents in Philly, so I'm enjoying a nice Wawa PJ's tea like I used to in high school at my parents' kitchen. So
living the dream, man.
That's the Philadelphia dream. Yeah, that's
literally the dream. Yeah. They're like, "Are you gonna go buy food?" No, I'm just gonna go to Wawa all weekend. So,
hey, chat. If you don't know what Wawa is, please enter in that in the chat, and I will make sure Adam gives you a full rundown of what Wawa is, so we can clear all the air around it being a gas station, because it's more than a gas station. But so obviously it's Super Bowl week. Again, just coming back from New Orleans. We'll get back into that later. I had a chance encounter with one Jameis Winston, which was just an absolutely electric experience. But more importantly, we have one of the biggest betting days of the year coming up on Sunday. And it's the Eagles and the Chiefs. So obviously, I'm a little bit partial to who I think should win this game. But guys, let's use data, let's use your instincts, and let's give the people what they want, which is some insight into the game. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Josh, let's start with you. Eagles, Chiefs, rematch for Super Bowl 57. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, so I can't wait to sweat this one, by the way. I'm going to be sweating it at the Sandia Casino in New Mexico. Very much looking forward to that. Side note, they don't allow online betting in New Mexico, so I've been struggling out here trying to get bets down. But, guys, I think right off the bat, I just want to preface it by saying I don't think you can argue with anyone who likes either side. I know that's a bit of a cop-out. But look at the line. It's 1.5. Some books are even at 1. Odds makers are expecting on a neutral site basically a coin flip game. So I think there's a couple ways to approach it. Now, if we look at the betting market, which is what I always try to look at first, currently we are seeing this line dip a little bit. James, you're going to like this. This was -1.5 Chiefs opener early in the week. Dating back to last week, we saw it get up to 2. Looked like, hey, there's a lot of early money laying it with Kansas City. Got down to 1.5. We pretty much sat 1.5 for a full week. Now we're 1.5, but even coming down to 1. So that tells me you are getting a little bit of late betting coming in here on the Philadelphia Eagles. And one thing, if you talk to odds makers, they'll tell you, 90% of the Super Bowl handle is going to come in the last 3 days. So that big wave of money, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, game day movement as well, is super important because that's big bets coming in. So I think we are seeing, again, this line come back to Philly. My question is, does it get all the way to a pick 'em? Does it hop the fence to Philly -1? Is there a point where Chiefs get, bet so low at -1 that then we see a lot of buyback, bring it back up to 1.5? So I think that's something we got to monitor between now and Sunday. I'm going to go down with the ship, though. I'm going to go Kansas City money line. Now, a couple things I like in terms of my money line play. And James and Adam, I know you're shaking your head already, but it's going to make for a good live stream because we're going to give you both.
It's good. This is great content. This is great content. I love it.
The Eagles side, we're going to give you the Chiefs side. But here's my angle. One, I noticed that Circa, sharpest bet splits around. You can get them at vsin.com. Kansas City is getting 57% of bets, 70% of dollars on the spread. Money line, they're getting 36% of bets, nearly 50% of the money. So good low bets, higher dollar split there in favor of Kansas City. The other angle that I'm looking at is, again, this show is presented by Garage Beer, powered by Rithmm. Go download the Rithmm app. And you know what I found, guys? I have 2 models on this game. One says Kansas City should be -2.2. The other one says KC should be -5. So I know the 5 is a big number. It's kind of out there. It's a bit extreme, but it just tells me both of my models here are leaning and favoring Kansas City. I also like a couple angles here that you guys are not going to like as Eagles fans. Andy Reid, 23-4 off a bye. Give him extra time. He does very, very well. Patrick Mahomes against a Vic Fangio head coach or defensive coordinator team, 8-0. And then it's a bit of a play for me just in terms of a don't bet against Mahomes. I know that's square to say. I know people have told me it's a lazy handicap, but I went out to Vegas last year. I was KC from start to finish. Everyone shamed me and said, what a lazy handicap. Don't bet against Mahomes. Well, you know it's not lazy? Cashing a ticket. So I vowed a couple of years ago, I took your Eagles, guys. I thought we were doing well. Again, I don't want to, incur any PTSD for you guys, but of course, what happened? Mahomes pulled it out. I vowed never again to bet against Mahomes in a big game. Played him last year against the 49ers, played him against the Bills last week. And then here's the other thing. If you think the NFL is rigged with the refs in favor of Kansas City, which it's not, but if it is, why are you betting against the rigged side? Give me the Chiefs, money line. I think if you want to play the Eagles, great teaser play, take them up to 7.5. But I ain't betting against Mahomes. Rhythm's behind me, backing me up here. I'm going Chiefs, money line, boys.
Wow. I mean, look, he's a contrarian. That's what he is. So I understand that's how you feel.
Even on the show, I'm the 33%. You guys are 66%. That's fine.
That's okay. Now, what I want to ask, and I'm going to ask you both this question is, it's approaching Super Bowl Sunday. The lines are moving a lot before the game. When is your ideal time to, again, get your plays in? When are you happy with the line? What are you looking for? And again, what is your overall strategy with your betting?
So, Josh,
yeah, Adam, you go. No, you
go.
Okay,
so I would recommend now is not the time to bet. Or really starting tomorrow, starting Saturday and Sunday, really Sunday. Don't bet any overs on Sunday. I would lean with what I'm sure Josh is going to say, and just go. The day to go really contrarian is on Sunday, because that is, as he had said, that's when all the bets are coming in. That is when a lot of the public money is in. And look, and if you blanket statement, just kind of go by like the public doesn't really know, even though I'm sure certain operators' earnings said that this season public seemed to know a little bit. It's generally a good way to do it on what is the sharpest and most efficient model for a game that the books are using, which is they've had all season to get to this. Josh, the one thing I'm going to say about your Chiefs pick from a data-backed and how you know about numbers and all that, first of all, I can't disagree with don't back Mahomes. But I can say that Mahomes, that last year we remember, or 2 years ago when we had this matchup, the Eagles opened up as dogs, closed as favorites. And to me, and we saw again this year, one other time or 2 times I think this season, Mahomes was a dog, and one of those times he won. I think a lot of movement when it comes to Chiefs stuff is that books cannot allow Patrick Mahomes to be a dog at all. I think that's almost worse than betting against him, is giving him points. So I can't argue with you on that stuff. But in terms of like props and stuff, I've been working on props over the last week and a half. You start to get a lot more signals this weekend. But as it gets closer to game time, I look more towards some unders than I do overs. Today is kind of my last overs day, and there's a couple that I do like for that reason.
And how about you, Josh? I know, again, everybody's a little bit different here, but just want to give people some strategies in case they're curious what they should be doing themselves.
Yeah, so let's take it from a Chiefs perspective. I think if you haven't bet the Chiefs yet, I would wait, because it does look like this line has moved down a bit. Again, if you look at the juice, which is something that I always pay attention to, a lot of people focus on the juice, the tax, the VIG, that 3-digit number in parentheses next to every spread or total. It's not just what you have to pay, but it can tell you which way the wind is blowing. So if you are looking at deciding whether to place a bet now or later, go to the juice and see what it's telling you. Look at your live odds page and see what the market is, where it's basically leaning. So what I mean by that is, if you look at a lot of these 1.5s, like it's Chiefs minus 1.5 at like plus 100. Flip it the other way. It's Eagles plus 1.5, minus 115, minus 120. So that tells me, again, we may be getting down to 1 across the board. There's already a lot of books that are at 1 right now. So if you're going to play Chiefs, I think you want to wait it out, because, again, you might be able to get a better money line price. And I'm a big money line versus money line short favorites, because you lay Chiefs 1.5 right now, they win by 1, you lose. You lay 1 and Chiefs win by 1, you push. So I'm going to go money line here, minus 115 if you can. Flip it the other way, though. If you like the Eagles, I think you bet the Eagles right now. plus 1.5. It's trending down toward 1. If you want to tease them up, I can't argue with that either. Plus 1.5 to 7.5. You can go through some key numbers. I just think that hook is so important if you're going to play the Eagles. Now, if you think they're going to win anyway, you go money line and say, hey, I'm getting a better money line price now before it falls, as much plus money as you can. But I think it's a wait if you want to play KC. I think it's a play right now if you're going to play the Eagles. And then again, if you're playing a teaser, you want to take Eagles up to 7.5. Guys, I know there's a lot of under money. We'll get to the total in a second. It was 49.5 down to 48.5. But I can't really argue with taking that total down to 42.5 and playing that over. So that's my thought. But again, there's crazy things happen on Super Bowl Sunday. Maybe this flips to, Eagles -1. Maybe it goes back up toward KC -1.5, -2. We shall see. But that's just my thoughts as of now.
And guys, for somebody that's seeing that line movement, what is that indicative of, right? Like, what should somebody be thinking, not only from a betting perspective, but just from a game perspective, right? Like, does a shift to the Eagles mean that America is thinking the Eagles are going to win this game? Or is it a push from the Sharps to change the lines here? So just give a little insight there, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious about that.
Yeah, Adam, you want to go first? What are your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I think that it's pretty easy for the Eagles to be a public dog here, like across the board. No, people like you have a team appearing in the Super Bowl for the third straight time, going for a three-peat. It is not novel for people to not want to people to would rather bet against Patrick Mahomes than even back the Eagles. That's sort of probably the mentality. The Super Bowl lines are tight for a reason, and I think it's pretty tough to argue that these aren't the two best teams in the league. Like, put money aside. Best two defenses, one of the best offenses, and one of the most methodical offenses, cerebral offenses. As Kansas City doesn't score necessarily a lot of points, but they do it with ruthless efficiency. It's hard to say that these aren't the two most deserving teams that are being there, and that these lines aren't pretty accurate, which is why it's so hard to find edges. So, I think that the biggest advice that I give everybody is put aside, including myself, how much you don't want to see the Chiefs, either the Chiefs have a three-peat or a Philadelphia fan be happy, and just decide who you think has a better roster, better team, and could probably pull this out. Because to Josh's point, a lot of stuff is going to center on the money line right now anyway, unless you want to tease, because right now you have pretty key numbers on a couple sides.
Yeah, I would agree with Adam, James. And I think, talking about bet splits and percentages and stuff like that, let me just give you the updated numbers right now. If you look at DraftKings, which, again, if you go to VSiN.com, you can get DraftKings and Circa. And I like to kind of play them off each other and try to think about, what do these differences mean? So, for example, DraftKings right now, 55% of spread bets are on Kansas City. That, to me, tells me that, again, some public here is leaning Kansas City, but I also think 55% is technically the majority side, but Chiefs are normally, throughout the season, they're getting 70, 80% of spread bets. So I actually think this is probably, even though it's technically public, Kansas City as of right now, it's really a low number here if you're looking at KC specifically. And then when I mentioned Circa, what's notable to me is that it's 57% of bets KC, but 70% of dollars. So basically, if you're looking out in Vegas, at Circa, one of the sharpest books around, they welcome smart money. They don't reject it. That 13% discrepancy bets to dollars tells me that's like a good sign for Kansas City that the bigger wagers are going with the Chiefs. Also, you look at, odds makers, they'll kind of tell you these numbers are so sharp when they set this line because you have 18-game regular season sample. You have the full playoff sample. We even have a box score from a couple of years ago when these teams played each other, even though, there are some different players on both sides. So this line is pretty sharp, and it's going to take a lot of money to move this line. But also, I would just think about, this is the one game where kind of you can think about what normally sharps move numbers. Public can have some influence here just because it's so lopsided, so overwhelming. So King Nebuchadnezzar, what up, buddy? Where are you going? You going with me and the Chiefs, or you going with the Eagles with James and Adam? But yeah, I just think splits, line movement, these are things that I want to take into account, but I am going to lean on Rithmm telling me it's -5 or -2.2 KC.
All right, well, let's see if the pronunciation you just had for this name, I can't pronounce that, but
Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah, man, Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah,
Nebuchadnezzar, that's awesome. I think here we go. Oh my God.
Oh, so he's got an emotional hedge. Fan tax. There you
go.
King wins no matter what. Yeah.
It's interesting because I saw our guy Ross Tucker. He's an Eagles guy, went against the Eagles. So I think again, sometimes you got to be realistic. And again, good job, you guys did pronounce it correctly. But again, thank you for the input, guys. Again, we're just trying to help everybody as they're approaching Super Bowl Sunday, what they should be looking for, what the line movements mean. We heard from Josh. Now it's time to hear from Adam. Adam, what is your approach to betting this game as an Eagles fan who just drove home to be around myself and the rest of our fan base for this game?
I drove 6 hours to be near Broad. Look, I think the Eagles win this game. That is a little bit of Sean Green in me. That's a little bit of jaded Eagles fan. This is I'll go point by point. All right, the Fangio 8-0 thing. Throw that out. Mahomes has 26 career losses, period, his entire career. So he's an outlier data point as is. I understand the not bet against Mahomes. And if you can find me a team that he is bad against or has a sub 500 record, spoilers, it doesn't exist, then I will lay a little more credence to the Fangio defense effect. Which, by the way, the last 2 times Mahomes played against that team, they didn't score more than 25 points, which I think is key for this. This is the best Eagles defense that I have seen since Andy Reid era, since Trotter was our captain. So this is between Zach Ball having a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, between having 2 rookies who are in PFF's top 5 for cornerbacks. It's just if you want to look at data, go to PFF and look at the rosters. The Chiefs had to trade for DeAndre Hopkins in the middle of the year. DeAndre Hopkins is probably 1 game away from being an NPC. I think that this Eagles team has a lot more of an identity this time than they did the first time, which was their defense didn't look nearly as good. But they also weren't running the ball like they are right now. And just there's a lot of special magic that's going on with this. Again, 2 of the top defensive teams, like I said, in the league. But I like the Eagles roster. I like the Eagles defense. I like a lower scoring game overall. And I think that the Eagles win this game in a game that might not have as much fireworks, but I think is truly going to show that the Philadelphia Eagles are the team to beat in the NFL this season.
Well, obviously, I love to hear that. And again, without betting implied here, I think the Eagles are going to win this game. I think there's no shot that, again, with Saquon Barkley as a running back, with Jalen being absolutely locked in, I agree with you. There's no way we're losing this game. And a few other stats that I thought were really interesting. The one was playing on the turf, right? Did you see they're 11-0 on artificial turf? I may have stolen that from you guys, but that's a huge deal, especially when you factor in how great our defensive line is and how poor the Chiefs' offensive line is. So again, get out.
No, there's a couple other stats that I have that I think are pretty important to bring up here. Okay, so the Eagles, first of all, are 1-0 in revenge Super Bowl matchups. They lost to the Patriots in a Super Bowl, and then they beat them the second time. They are also 1-0 when Carson Wentz is on the bench. He's on the bench as the Chiefs' backup quarterback. The Eagles were you guys don't laugh. These are stats. You want data? There's data. The Eagles are 1-0 in the Superdome this year. The Chiefs have not played in the Superdome with fans. They played a game in 2020 in COVID, but there was no fans. So I have to give the edge to the Eagles there. At Jalen Hurts in weeks when my wife comments that he is one of the most handsome quarterbacks that she's ever seen. He averages 245 yards and 1.7 TDs. She said this week that Patrick Mahomes ain't it. Thing out for you that is, I think it's pretty locked up.
Wow. I mean, that.
All right, I'm changing my pick. I'm going Eagles.
There we go. That's what we're trying to do. This is actually a smear campaign against anybody betting the Chiefs this weekend. But I love it. And again, they're
also 0-1 when end racism is in the end zone. That's not going to be there this weekend. There's a lot of things in the Eagles' favor.
Well, that's what we need. And I think most importantly to me is that we have good turf and we don't have the voodoo BS that happened in Glendale So Jalen Carter could be an absolute monster and terrorize Patrick Mahomes all day. That's my dream. And my other dream is to see Saquon Barkley smashing his head as many times as possible when he keeps breaking off long runs. And again, I think the Eagles there's something special about them right now. The Chiefs have had a strange year. They've had a lot of injuries. Like you said, they had to sign DeAndre Hopkins mid-year. The one worry I do have is Hollywood Brown. He's fast as hell. Luckily, we have some great defensive backs. Xavier Worthy's really come into his own. And then Travis Kelce's, he's somebody that can, at any given point, we have a pretty soft middle of our defense here, and besides Zach Bond. And again, I'd hate to see them just hit the middle of the field a lot. But again, the Eagles on paper and in my heart are the better team. I think they take this one home. But aside from our personal feelings on the game, aside from anything else, a lot of people that aren't in Philadelphia and aren't in Kansas City are betting the props in this game. Now, there's two types of props. You have the pregame props and the in-game props that are not on the field stuff. They're more color of the Gatorade, the length of the anthem, things like that. And then we obviously have the player props too. So again, just like I asked about the game picks, what are some of the approaches you guys have to looking at these lines? When do you try to get them? And then what are your favorite plays for this game specifically, both from, again, maybe like a few fun ones, but also the player props?
Yeah, I'll throw a couple at you guys. One, I just think differentiate novelty props with player props. Novelty props are basically anything that is outside of the box score that isn't right there in terms of a player stat. Obviously, player props, something we do a lot on the show in terms of, over under yardage and attempts and touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. So, I'll give you a couple of these that are just kind of interesting to me that I've seen, and I'll give you the ones that I'm playing. I did notice if you look at the length of the national anthem, everyone's playing the over. It's basically, I think it's 120.5 seconds, something like that. 74% of bets are going over, but the juice is on the under. So do we see that go under? That was interesting. That was from my buddy John Ewing at BetMGM. You've also seen, I think it's green/yellow Gatorade has moved quite a bit. Maybe there's some intel. Someone leaked something.
It is the sharp color. It's absolutely the sharp color this year. I've heard it from so many people.
And again, does someone work there? They know what kind of powder is being in there. They leaked it out, and then obviously they'll get fired because they leaked out this information. But those are just the fun ones. The coin flip, let me just say one thing about the coin flip. I'm not a coin flip guy. I think a lot of people at the party want to bet the coin flip. I would just recommend if you're going to do it, heads or tails, make sure it's plus 100. I know there's a lot of books out there that are like minus 102, minus 105. They're taking money from you. That's just not a smart bet from a number standpoint, because basically you're paying for something that happens less than 50% of the time, even though a coin flip is 50-50. So whatever you want to do, these novelty bets, I just would stick to your bankroll. Don't go crazy with them. The limits are kind of low anyway. But in terms of player props, guys, and I want to get Adam's take on this too, because I want him to explain laddering, which I think is something newer that a lot of people may not know about, but you can make some money on. But I'll just start with Juju Smith-Schuster. As a Patriots fan, terrible signing by Belichick. You let Jacoby Myers go and you bring in Juju, who did absolutely nothing, even though pretty much everyone stinks on the Pats. Although maybe not anymore with Vrabel taking over. But I like him to go over this receiving prop here. Thank you, Alec. Over 15.5 receiving yards. Rithmm is predicting 20.1. That's a decent 5-yard edge. He had a good game against Buffalo, 60 receiving yards. And then if you go back a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl, he was the second leading receiver against the Eagles. You had Kelce lead the team, but Juju had 7 catches for 53 yards against Philly. Again, he's a veteran guy, big games. He's been there, done that. And then I was also looking at the snap count. He had 38 snaps against Buffalo. That was the most since he's joined Kansas City. So this is a guy who 16-yard catch can win this prop for you in one fell swoop. I think Juju is a guy who, again, the public is going to lean on Kelce, Mahomes, A.J. Brown, Saquon. I like to target these lesser-known players. And if you give me a good rhythm edge and a guy that has good success, a couple weeks ago and in this game 2 years ago, I really like Juju to go over 15.5. But Adam, talk to me about laddering Juju.
So as blasphemous as this is, I really like Juju in this game too. And like a little bit more on what Josh had mentioned. I mean, it's not just that he had Juju was his stat percentage went up also 18% from the previous game. And if you're looking at guys who went down, Hollywood Browns went down a little bit. Like there's a lot of reasons to like Juju here. He also operates in a way that's like kind of in this middle space of the field where the Eagles actually by design give up a lot of space and a lot of tackles. And that's what he likes to do. Also, don't forget, he had 33. I can't even remember if he completed the whole season with the Patriots. He had 33 yards against the Eagles in that opening game. So he's actually gone over this number in his last 2 games against the Eagles, 33 and that Super Bowl game. For laddering, though, I like him for laddering, what I like to do is I like to find somebody who has a very low number. So that
Hold on, Adam. What is a ladder?
Oh, what is a ladder?
Explain that to everyone listening.
Backing it up. A ladder is an escalating bet. So basically, you take a bet and you say, let's say it's somebody to get 2 receptions. You basically start to add other layers of, well, what about 3 receptions, 4 receptions, 5 receptions? One of the things I love doing with Rithmm is that Rithmm gives you a projection of what they think. And on this one, on Juju, you said that there was a 5-yard, I think a 5 or 6 yard cushion.
Yep.
Right. So his baseline number is 16.5. So what am I going to do? Because Rithmm liked it up to 25. I'll bet then to win a unit on the plus money of 20, the plus money on 25, the plus money on 30. I'll go up a few layers. On Juju, I have done this up to 50 yards. Let me see what the numbers were that I had gotten here. It's really good for these guys that Rithmm does a really good job of finding players that have really low numbers that could exceed those expectations and projections. And those are the guys that you want to find because there's tons and tons of value on it. To your point, everyone's going to be betting Kelsey. Everybody wants Worthy, but people forget that Darius Slay, who I would argue is the weakest cornerback that we have, is going to be on Juju. And Juju, for lack of a better description, kind of cooked us last Super Bowl, and he can get 5 for 40 and 5 for 40 with Juju. Let me just check what the numbers are on it, because I think like 16.5 is the 110. Yeah. For him to get 40 yards is plus 430. So, for him to get 50 yards is plus 760. So when you do a ladder bet, the math, the way it works is do a unit on your base okay, we think this guy hits this line and make sure it's lower. And then you do 2 win a unit. So on these other ones, so your risk exposure isn't as high, but what you can bring in is a little bit more. I did this actually with the Eagles and they alt spreads against the Commanders. So it was 9.5, 12.5, 13. And it was all these.
You cleaned up on that one, Adam.
Oh, it was great. It was turned into a 5-unit play. It was great. So, but I do like Juju a lot in this game as the guy who's going to get action. Because look, man, Mahomes has a passing attempts number of 38. So there's going to be a lot of pass attempts. There's going to be a lot of guys who can catch it.
Yeah, ladders, I think people have probably seen them all over Twitter and social media. They're one of the more popular bet types right now. So again, Super Bowl, no better time to do it than now. Again, any other plays from you guys for prop bets here?
Yeah, I got another one for you, and then I'll kick it to you guys. Pacheco, our guy. If you go back a couple of years ago, so let's first start in the betting market. He's 21.5 rushing yards. Now, obviously, you have seen Kareem Hunt have a really good year. I think it was a great free agent pickup with familiarity, and Hunt has been doing really well getting the lion's share of the carries. But his Kareem Hunt's prop, what is it, like 40 or something higher like that? Pacheco is basically half that, 21.5 rushing yards. I think the good thing here about Pacheco, one, start with a Rithmm recommendation, 31.2 rushing yards. So, James, we always look for those 10-yard cushions. You pretty much have it here with Pacheco. But then also look at the graph there. You know, I think a lot of people, when they see over 21.5, then they look, only 12 against Buffalo, 18 Houston, 18 Pittsburgh. Like, why would I want to play this guy to go over if he's obviously gone under this number last 3 games? I look at it the other way. I like to buy low on players who have gone under and haven't performed, because a lot of people who might have played their over are going to be mad at Pacheco. They're going to want to fade him. They're going to automatically want to go under. But again, you got to remember, if Pacheco is running hot, you're not getting 21.5. He's going to be way above that number. I also think it's really important here that you have the 2-week break here, because Pacheco, got injured. He was out for a while. 2-week break is a big benefit. I think the Chiefs want to run the ball again and keep it away from the Eagles and their high-powered offense. Then the other angle here is, let's go back a couple years in the Super Bowl. Pacheco, 15 carries, 76 yards. He did very well in the big game. So I think there's just a play here. You can start with just a discrepancy, 21.5. Rithmm is predicting 31.2. But I think if you layer in the rest, you layer in the historical performance that he had a couple years ago, and the fact that, Kareem Hunt can't make every carry, Pacheco to get over 21.5. What is that? 5 carries, 4 yards a clip, a little bit more than that. I think it's definitely doable. I'm going to go Pacheco over 21.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, I liked Pacheco as well. Part of being a better is you got to put it aside and decide who's got value on the other side. And one of those is Pacheco is another person who I think is a good ladder candidate too. If you look at, so Pacheco had 70 plus in the Super Bowl. He had 80 against them in the regular season game. Yes, everything went down after he got hurt. He opened the season with 45, 90, 45, 55. Reed loves him. He's actually really fantastic when you see him at full strength. That 2 weeks rest is going to be a pretty big deal. But to have a line of 20 for a guy who was at 60 for when he wasn't hurt, it's an incredible discount on a player that if he wasn't hurt or if he wasn't healthy, he probably wouldn't be active. He would probably be giving more snaps to Carson Steele. Back to the laddering on it and how you can escalate this bet. 40 yards for Pacheco is plus 374. 50 yards is plus 660. I love that. You can kind of pair it with a TD. I think that's a nice fun one to do with this. Again, to Josh's point, a lot of these guys, especially on a game that all the eyeballs are on, try to find guys that you can buy low on that are going to be part of game script. With the Chiefs, they love to use everybody, and Andy Reid clearly likes Pacheco. If you look also at the Houston game a couple weeks ago, they tried to get Pacheco going early. He was not only the first carry of the game, but he was the first 2 targets. They tried to really get him going in the receiving game too. I think that I just couldn't agree more with Josh on the fact that I think the 2 weeks rest is probably going to show that he's going to have a little bit more explosiveness. So give me Pacheco, ladder him to 50.
Yeah, Pacheco gives me nightmares from the last Super Bowl we played against the Chiefs. The dude runs like a maniac. Yeah. He's from Rutgers. He's a Jersey guy. He's a little bit crazy. Again, if you've ever met somebody from Rutgers. So, yeah, look, the Chiefs, they don't have the star power that a lot of the teams that are forced like they are typically have. But, man, they make it work. And I think that's, again, the one thing that when looking at this game on paper, you're like, man, the Eagles look like they should dominate. But in the same way Tom Brady used to, Patrick Mahomes makes those guys that may not be the household names feel like superstars. So this is a perfect opportunity, again, for a guy like Pacheco to step up. Again, he's dealt with the injuries. And again, with a pretty soft line, it doesn't take much for him to get that. I'm pretty sure he had a 20-plus yard carry in the last Super Bowl. Again, Eagles defenses, they let it happen sometimes, and who knows with this turf. So any other plays you guys are feeling really strongly about? Any other things that you're looking for just from a game perspective? And again, any questions from the audience of specific plays or anything like that?
Go ahead, Adam.
I know this is like the one that everyone's kind of whatever on, but I like Mahomes under rushing. And I'll do the Twitter guy thing. I took it at 30 earlier in the week. I don't care. I still like it under 28.5.
Oh my God, I hate that, man. Thank you for mocking that.
I hate it so much.
That doesn't help me now if I'm trying to bet it now.
Yeah,
okay,
here's what I bet last week. I still like it under 28.5, and here's why. So, and this is in our group chat. I'm gonna put James on the spot. In our group chat, James was rushing around. He had a bunch of beignets in his system. He accidentally put out that he liked Jalen Hurts under 8.5 rushing attempts, and I said, no, you don't want that because that's a game script for us to lose. Basically, if someone if you have less rushing attempts, if Hurts has less rushing attempts, which means he didn't have kneel downs, which means they didn't have the ball at the end of the game, probably means the Chiefs won because they were passing more. It's part of the reason why I like the Mahomes under rushing. First of all, he also runs like a maniac sometimes when he wants. Even if for some weird act of Zeus, the Chiefs do win this game. I am still hurt from that 2018 Super Bowl where I had 24.5 rushing yards for Mahomes, and he decided to run backwards 30 yards and killed my bet. So he'll do that. He did it 3 weeks ago. So he will run backwards 16 yards. I'm sure that he can get some scrambles because of the way that the defense is structured from a little bit of a shell scheme at times. But I think that this is going to be a negative game script for Mahomes, and he's going to be passing more, not running more. So I like his under rushing.
Yeah, I think it's a good call there. I would also throw a couple at you. So I want to give a shout out to our guy, Jeff Matthews, Jeff has, I think, attended every single live stream that we've done this year. So
I love Nico. This is a great,
let's hope that he can hit this one. Yeah, I like this one too. Nico Remigio from Fresno State. Remigio, 5'9".
Is that not Italian?
He's not. I mean, I don't know. The Italian folks are probably upset that we mispronounced it, but I don't think it's.
I'll take the blame on that one. Yeah,
it's fine.
That's my bad.
5'9" Italian. I'm putting all my money on this thing.
He's great.
Well, I don't think it's a great call. I mean, if you're looking at it, so one comment real quick is that, you are going to get a lot of recreational bettors who want to take huge long shots, and they're going to lean on a lot of yeses and a lot of, big payouts with plus money. A lot of wise guys aren't afraid to play a lot of no's and play a lot of minus numbers. So just keep that in mind. But I do think this is one where you want to put $5 on this. I am really not going to argue with you. I might even do it myself because Remigio, again, hope I pronounce his name correctly, almost ripped one off the last game. I had never heard of this guy ever. And then obviously almost, went the distance there against the Bills. 28-1. Can he rip you off a punt return, kickoff return? Obviously, we've seen kickoff returns increase with the rule change. I'll defer to you, James and Adam, in terms of the Eagles, punt coverage. I don't know if they've allowed much in terms of TDs the other way. But as James points out, he's fast. He's got some good, juke skills in close quarters. 28-1. You put $5 on it. That could be definitely worth a look. And then I'll just throw this at you because we were talking about, targeting lesser known players. Samaje Perine. Perine over 7.5 receiving yards. Now it's a caution flag at Rithmm. So we always mention, hey, it's not like a auto recommended bet, but you got to build a case to feel like, not just the recommendation from Rithmm, but maybe a reason why you feel better about it from your own research. Rhythm's predicting 16 receiving yards. He's gone over this number 9 of his last 10 games. And to me, it's about trust. You bring him in third down back. He's a veteran guy. When Mahomes had to ice that game against the Bills, what was it? It was even fourth down, I think. He kicks it out there to Perine, gets you 17 yards. He cashed the last one. He's a veteran guy, trusted by Mahomes. I think that's a good play there as well. And then, James, this, always got to at least mention Noah Gray. Noah Gray cashes a lot of tickets. It's only 11.5 receiving yards. Another caution flag, but Rithmm is predicting closer to 24 receiving yards. So the key on Kelsey is Gray one-on-one against a slower linebacker. Perine and Gray, to me, are two guys worth a look as well.
I swear to God, if we get burnt by Noah Gray, and that's how this game goes the opposite way, I'm never going to be able to say his name on the show again.
Josh, where Noah Gray's from?
I don't. Where?
From Leominster.
Whoa.
It looks so.
Right. I got to play him.
That's either Massachusetts or England. I don't know which.
He was quarterback. So the reason why I know this is because I was looking up
Central Mass, yeah.
Very popular bet for Super Bowl is over 2.5 passing attempts, which it's plus 180, I think, right now. I don't like it because I was basically trying to figure out who the guys who can do it, but Noah Gray was a quarterback in high school, so I always put his name over there. But he was all state at in Leominster High, so which is not too far from where Josh and I both live. But no, look back to the Nico Remigio. The other thing is that some things to look at with numbers. So I don't know if we're naming specific. Yeah, we can name specific books here. DraftKings has will a kick be returned for a touchdown at 13-1? There's nobody on Cooper DeJean and Kenny Gainwell aren't returning kicks for touchdowns. I'm sorry. They're great and I love them both, but it's just not going to happen. But you're getting 28-1 on the only guy on the Chiefs who is returning touchdowns. That is a way better bet. And it's a really good way, not just this NFL last game of the season, but in general to be looking. You'll see a lot of times that certain books will combine defensive and special teams touchdowns. It's never a good bet because generally the guy who's returning this, yes, there's a fumble and there's a scoop and those kind of things, but either bet the defense if that's your handicap, or if to Jeff's point, you like Nico, then take the guy who's going to be getting the punts. You're getting nearly 3 times what the price is for him to be the guy who gets a touchdown versus catching all of everybody. And it's not likely to be that many people. I found a similar bet like this for 2-point conversion. The Eagles are plus 275 to attempt a 2-point conversion. They do the most in the league. The Chiefs don't really do that. And so if you wanted to bet anyone to do it, it's lesser odds, but you're basically paying a premium and losing value because you're trying to catch everybody in it. So just another good way for you to get a little bit more value out of a game that's going to have a lot of, public bettors and a lot of things all over the place.
Adam, we haven't gotten your plays for the novelty bets. And
Novelty bets. What do I have?
You're a novelty bet guy, so this is
So I like. So
what's
I
the
like
first song that Kendrick Lamar sings and how it changes? I mean, come on.
I agree with CJ Sullivan. I think it's gonna be "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe," because he's not gonna open.
How confident that answer was. I love that.
Well, because I handicap the halftime stuff because as a musician, I'm like, all right, what song goes into what? You can't open. You have to open with a banger, but not like a banger. So, Not Like Us isn't going to be the opener. Yeah. Not Like Us is probably going to be the closer.
Yeah, he's going to drop the mic or do some crazy
stuff.
Right,
exactly. So I think bitch. I mean, originally I was on this whole CJ Sullivan perfectly capped this last week on VSiN, but originally I was on no, they won't curse on national TV. Look, the queen of the internet herself, Rihanna, opened up her Super Bowl set with "Bitch Better Have My Money." So I think "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe." I think you're going to get then "Humble," and you'll get some other things. You'll get some guests and stuff in there, but like "Not Like Us" is. I confidently do not think "Not Like Us" is going to be the opener.
Shouldn't too much energy right away.
Too much energy. Too early.
I don't know the odds on this one. And I was talking about this with my Uber driver on the way home from New Orleans yesterday. on the way to the airport. Shout out to my Uber driver. She was from Holly Grove. And she was telling me all about Holly Grove, which is where Lil Wayne's from. And it was cool as hell. But we were talking about how a lot of people from New Orleans are pissed that Lil Wayne is not the halftime show. And right now, he's not supposed to come out. But something tells me he just announced the Carter 6 release date on June 6th. I feel like he's going to make an appearance at this game, in this halftime show.
Get all the cash money. Get Birdman out there. Get everybody, and then
I don't know Birdman. I don't know if he's allowed. I think maybe canceled.
I don't know. Yeah.
BG, Master P. There's some great New Orleans rappers. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But I think Lil Wayne's making an appearance, and I don't know what the odds are at what book, but I think that's something out there. I'm gonna call my shot right now.
I'm trying to see if I had any other novelty exotic ones. I like the under on the and a shout to Scott Bowser who had capped this. So if you get any sort of inkling, if there is a piano on stage, it means there's guests with John Batiste when he plays. Like I've seen him do the anthem. I've seen him play a ton of times. My mom's done photography for him at New Orleans, but it's like he will go under unless he's got guests for that anthem. Let me see if there's any other ones. In terms of the most novelty one that I do have is such a degenerate bet. I have over 95, and this is on a legal book. I didn't over 95 and a half plays in shotgun formation. I have from Caesars. Hertz takes 150% of his snaps in shotgun.
How do you track that during the game?
Oh, I'm just
letting it a piece of paper.
Yeah, I'm just letting it. I'm not. So actually, no. This is a good time to talk about some advice on betting on Super Bowl props. So look, for those who follow me, I have 35 plays and stuff like that, and that's fine. But the reality, what I have learned from betting the Super Bowl is two things. One is don't bet what you want to see. Bet what you think. Bet what the data and everything's going to tell you is going to happen. Otherwise, you're going to be very disappointed. That's a shout out to that Patriots-Rams Super Bowl that I can openly tell you was the most amount of money that I have ever lost in one game at a time because I had, of course, everybody going over, and it was unwatchable. 13-3. Yeah, it was terrible. If Gronk had won the MVP, it would have saved me, and I almost did with that longest catch. But so that's one thing. And then also be able to say what your favorite bet is because the fun thing about the Super Bowl is that cool, you can have action on all sorts of things, but you don't want to be the guy at the party who's every single thing you're kind of tracking. Have an idea of cool, what are your three favorite bets? I have a couple favorite bets that are props. I have a couple favorite bets that are game log. I have in my head, I know what I've bet. That one I just saw and I texted Sean Green and I'm like, I'm betting this, right? And he's like, yeah, you should. So it was on Caesars and it actually got bet up. It opened at 91 and so then it got steamed. So why not? What else am I going to bet how many plays are in shotgun formation? I got to see Mahomes do his whole thing. Alec, we got to go to wide angle for me to do this so everyone can see. But I'm going to do the whole Mahomes thing where he walks and he does his hands and his fingers like that. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah. He does it in shotgun. So, anyway.
Alec, please make sure we put that up. I don't know what that
Yeah, that was pretty good. Make that a GIF. Yeah.
That's going to be a GIF.
And I would just say too, like to Adam's point, when I was, betting Super Bowls again, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I wanted all the props. Give me all the props, like 10, 15, 20, 30. And again, if you feel like you have an edge, all the power to you. As I get older and I bet more Super Bowls, less is more. I know it's a cliche, but like number one, it's hard to track. Number two, props are fun, but they are hard to win. So the more props you layer onto your card, depending on what juice you get and your unit size, whether you're betting a unit per prop or maybe it's a quarter unit, I just think it's hard to track, unless you get really lucky and cash a lot. One of the things you can do is, like, let's say the big thing we care about is who's going to win this game. Like maybe I cash Chiefs, maybe you guys cash Eagles. We win our big bet, but then we bet 20 props and go, 5 and 15. So then even though you did a great job, picking the winner and who's going to cover, you kind of feel like you were a loser because you bet too many props that didn't cash. So I think that's important. And then also, I have to always mention this, shop around and get the best number. I know it's, people try to hammer it, and I think there's a reason why, but I'm going to give you guys a perfect example. If you look at the Super Bowl a few years ago, remember your guy, Boston Scott? I remember this like it was yesterday. Little scat back, a little quick guy out of the backfield. I want to say his rushing was, one book had 7.5, one had like 8.5, and one had 9.5. He ended with 8 yards. So if you got the over 7.5, you win. You got under 8.5, you win. You get over 8.5, you lose. You bet over 9.5, you lose. 9.5 under, you win. So the whole point being is, like, people who are new to sports betting probably just assume, all the books have the same number. They don't. And to me, and how many times, James, throughout this year, can we remember Bryce Young? What was he? Over 191.5, landed 191. Like, this has happened to me several times. Get the best number. I'm willing to pay a little bit more juice. Like if you got, for example, P. Ryan's over 7.5. Can you find me a book at 6.5 over minus 120? If so, I'll play that over the 7.5, minus 110. So it's so important to, if you like something, build a case for it, and then don't just go bet it at whatever book you're looking at. Go shop around. And again, the books right now, to the advantage of the bettor, they want your business. So whether, depending on what state you're in, maybe you don't have an account, maybe you only have one account, take advantage of all these sign-up bonuses, odds boosts. Make sure you get a sweetener here because you're a free agent. They want your money. You want to get the best number. So take advantage of that. And then again, you can be, locked and loaded for March Madness when that comes up next week or next month.
The other thing I'll add to Josh's point on shopping around for that number is also, Alec, can you pull up any Rithmm player card of just the history? It could be Hunt, it could be Pacheco, it could be anybody. So check this out. So you see how right there, how it says on the Rithmm, it says his line is Mahomes is 28. This is actually a really fun example. So Mahomes is under 28.5, and you can see that when he goes under this, he goes way under this. So you may actually want to do an alt under for him. I don't know if I'd recommend that. That's incredibly degenerate. It's going to have great odds. But for the other way, if you're doing somebody's over, if like Purine's a great example. Purine generally, when he goes over something, he gets like 10 yards. So you may actually want to get the little bit of the plus money and just go 10 yards for him over at plus money. You actually could have a little bit of less risk exposure, and then it's sort of a build off of just not only shopping around, but also look at when a guy goes over this number, what is the floor of going over it, and by that I mean what is the lowest next number that he hits when he sails over 6.5 or when he goes over 7.5. Usually it's 10.5, 11.5. It's you'll see it. It's pretty consistent, and that's the number that you want to bet because that's going to give you generally some plus odds and a little bit of extra money.
Hey guys, well, before we go to my Jameis story, I want to ask: is there any more picks? Any more recommendations and maybe advice of how to use Rithmm for the big game? Again, I know there's some people that may have not used Rithmm yet. Again, great time to use it for the big game, leading into NBA, March Madness, etc. So if you guys want to give a quick, kind of like talking point on how you use it, how you integrate it to help those that may be looking to use it this weekend.
Yeah, one advice I would have is if you haven't bet any of these props yet, go to whatever book you want to look at, DraftKings, FanDuel, and just screenshot the odds right now for these player props, because we mentioned the show at the start of the show, how between now and, kickoff on Sunday, 90% of the handle is going to come in. You're going to have so much betting. So what I would like to do or recommend to you guys is, if you're looking at P. Ryan, 7.5 right now. Bookmark him now, and then go look Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday late afternoon. Did that go up to 8? Did that go down to 7? I think you want a point of reference here with a lot of these player props and just look at, okay, how has this evolved over the last 3 most important betting days leading up to the Super Bowl? And you can look at it one of 2 ways. Like, I want to be with the late movement. So what I would look at is like lesser known guys, like your Noah Grays, Jahan Dotson, some of these guys who probably no one's going to be betting from a, casual better standpoint. Do those guys move? It's not as much like if Kelsey goes up or AJ Brown goes up or Devonta Smith. To me, it's the guys that are not household names. Do they move? Like, I'll give you an example from last year's Super Bowl. Kyle Juszczyk. I want to say he's receiving, and Adam, you can back me up here. It was like 3.5 receiving yards or 8.5, or some super low number. But the day of the Super Bowl, it got steamed up like 2 or 3 full yards. So you got to ask yourself, like, we got Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. We got all these big names. Yet we're seeing Kyle Juszczyk get steamed up out of nowhere, quietly, sneakily in the background. To me, those are the gems that if you like to look at line movement and see how things evolve, that's what you're looking for. Lesser known guys with movement late. And then just in terms of, using Rithmm to your advantage, obviously there's a Super Bowl show. College hoops, man. I'm loving betting college hoops right now. And just the fact that Rithmm can give you a lot of these late night sweats for me, West Coast games as an East Coast person, Kennesaw State, small schools. Again, once Super Bowl ends, we'll have the draft to bet on in about, a few months here. But we're really going to be, going pedal to the metal here with college basketball. And just the fact that, Rithmm can give you all these projections here for spread, total, money line plays. I like money lining short home favorites. You can really transition very easily into college basketball once Super Bowl is over.
Yeah, Rithmm is whenever I tell people about Rithmm, it really is, it's Josh Appelbaum as an app, because like you can actually sort it into like home dogs at a certain price.
Yeah, I love it, man.
It's great. But first of all, like, this isn't meant to sound like QVC-ish, but if you download Rithmm right now and you do not have an account, you actually get the Super Bowl for free. And I say that because you get 7-day free trial. And the last time I checked, the Super Bowl's in 2 days, and that would be within 7 days. So act now. Super Bowl is for free with your Rithmm subscription. So, but in all seriousness, again, to Josh's point, the college basketball stuff is awesome. Just shout out to in the Rithmm Discord, Mobes, who really has turned another gear on how you can use Rithmm, because you can filter your model and decide, oh, hey, I only want it when a spread is like this, like what's its record when it's like this. I have crushed on totals, which I think I personally get the best edge on with Rithmm. I make the joke a lot on Twitter that the robots are right, and the robots are very, very right on a lot of these. So I think, like, as you get to the Super Bowl, you don't want to be putting in a ton of stuff on Super Bowl day. Probably the best thing to look at on Super Bowl is, hey, what can I parlay with Scotty Scheffler to win the Waste Management, which is probably inevitable at this point. And then if there's any college basketball games, look at stuff that not everybody's hitting that day. The Kyle Juszczyk example that you mentioned for Super Bowl is great. I know a lot of the SGPN guys were on the first reception from him, which was a fun one. But try to look at some of these big players. It's a little bit harder for the Eagles because they're so top heavy. But the players I would look at what Kenny Gainwell's numbers are closer to game time. Look at Grant Calcaterra's numbers. Those are guys that are lower on the depth chart, but are probably Calcaterra is going to be out there for 60% of the snaps because they'll play 12 formation. And again, like, I got to shout it again, but like Samaje Perine may only get 30% of the snaps, but they love him. They love him, and they love him for first downs, which makes that 7.5 and stuff like that like one of the better bets. And again, you have a quarter, but look at what other props are so you can correlate. For me, it's Patrick Mahomes Patrick Mahomes has a pass attempt number of 38. So you got plenty of room to spread around on some of these guys.
Yeah. And don't forget that too with Rithmm, again, as prop lines update, so are the predictions. So what you see right now, you may see more on Sunday. So again, make sure you're checking, make sure you check now, make sure you check before the game. Yeah, we're just trying to give you the best options here. So you have a great Super Bowl Sunday, which Adam, I really hope we do, because I want to be on Broad Street again, and I want to be on Broad Street for a parade with you later this week.
I've got red Solo cups in my car from 2 years ago that Mark Drumheller and I had that we did not get to use. That will be used. It's the exact same car. It is. I'll be in the same location. I plan on being there. I want to give out one play that Rithmm doesn't have, but I think is a really fun play. I give another shout to Birdman for this one.
Birdman.
The other Birdman, who's a Philly native. Jersey number of the first TD under 15.5 is minus 115. You are basically covered. So Josh mentioned don't have a whole bunch of stuff where then you won your big bet, but you didn't win these other ones. Take a lot of floor bets. This is a great floor bet. 9 of the top 13 shortest odds for first TD are covered under this bet. You basically don't get the tight ends and you don't get Barkley and you don't get Hunt, but you get basically all the Eagles wide receivers. You get both quarterbacks. You get Pacheco. So it's a really good floor bet to capture a lot of stuff. I mean, I think it's going to be Jalen Hurts. So I have a nice little DGen parlay of Jalen Hurts first touchdown, Jalen Hurts last touchdown, Eagles by 6.5. But for this, it's a fun bet. Rithmm has no way to cap it. A robot could never figure this out. But it's I think it's a good fun one to create a floor. Try to create floors, guys, because you don't want to walk out of Super Bowl being like, that was fun, but I'm broke. It's just not an experience. Again, shout out to that 13-3 Patriots Super Bowl was the bottoming out gambling experience for me of my life. So especially after an Eagles Super Bowl the year before. So
shout out Greg. From Better Edge. Again, if you haven't tried Better Edge yet, it's a great platform. Again, allows you to go make your bets on there, but also they have Super Bowl squares, which I love doing. Again, digital Super Bowl squares, which are great. A lot of other competitions on there as well. So shout out Greg, shout out Better Edge. And fellas, I mean, again, this should be a hell of a game. I know America's apparently more tuned out to this game than in previous Super Bowls. I think people hate Philadelphia, and I think people hate Kansas City. I love Philadelphia. I hate Kansas City right now. We care about this game, and the betting public cares about this game. So I hope it's a good one. Absolutely. For all of us. You guys want to hear my Jameis Winston story?
Yes. I want the story and the video, man. I want photographic evidence.
Yeah. So if you see my beads here, these were given to me by a very nice homeless man in New Orleans on Tuesday. So I was in New Orleans the past 2 days, kind of got to see the beginnings of what Super Bowl week's going to look like. And, yesterday, have a later flight, go to Cafe Du Monde, try some beignets. And who's there? None other than Jameis Winston with Fox Sports just screaming on a microphone. And I'm like, I didn't know who it was at first. And I'm like, hey, that's Jameis Winston. Next thing I know, he's asking for people to join a competition. I had no idea what it was for, but I was like, hey, let's do it. Raise my hand. Next thing I know, I'm sitting next to Jameis in a beignet eating contest. Now, I'm about to show you the video that this is the first time it's been played yet. It's Jameis, let's put it this way. He is an absolute character, and he's a legend. So here's the video. Hey, wait. I got to get us off the screen.
Hey, bring those beignets over here. Yes. All right, I'm just going to say a little grace. Lord, I just thank you for this amazing day, Lord. Please bless these beignets to be nutritious and filling of our stomach. Y'all give word praise. Amen. All right, hold on. Did you say go birds? You can't be talking to Jesus when you talking about birds. All right, here we go. Go. Ain't no way you ain't two already.
James, you got to catch up. You got to catch up, man. We got to bet on this.
There you have it. Like I said, ain't nobody beat me. It would not be like a Philly fan than to throw shade on somebody, okay? But I love the energy. I grew up Eagles fan, okay? I love Eagles fans. This is Jameis Winston, your Fox Sports.
That was great.
Yeah, so literally just, again, chance encounter. I'm next to Jameis. I'm eating beignets with him. What a guy. And it was on Fox Sports 1, which was cool. And I got the Rithmm hat in there, and it's quite the experience. He made fun of me pretty much the entire time. Called me an obnoxious Philly fan at one point. Said I was taking the beignets before the kids who we were playing against as well. They were all Chiefs fans. It was electric. So shout out to Jameis for that awesome experience out there.
And the best part too, James, is the Lord's Prayer. Thank you for this nutritious meal. of
Yeah.
fried dough and powdered sugar. So
It's like
yeah,
Ricky
that was
Bobby.
pretty legit.
It was great. You also you got no powdered sugar on your really nice a black Eagles shirt because you
Thank
were
you.
meticulously eating of a very messy dessert. Well
Well,
done.
look, I don't know if you noticed, I actually won this thing. Jameis took my plate and poured his on there and then claimed he won. So and then later there's another video. He asked like what you thought of your performance. And I said, Jameis, much like Super Bowl 57, I was cheated. And I compared it to the pass interference. And so it was an awesome experience. And yeah, so New Orleans is very lively. People are starting to get there now, but the last few nights on Bourbon Street, it was 99% Eagles fans, 1% Chiefs fans, and the Eagles fans. You know, I saw some people that were out at 7 p.m. that looked pretty normal, and by 10 p.m. shirts were off. They were hugging everybody. I said "Go Birds" maybe 1,000 times. It's a hell of a place for a Super Bowl. So
Nice.
That's great, man.
Jameis is a national treasure. He'll be a great New York Giants quarterback next season.
He asked that question as well, and that was my answer. And the guy next to me was a Giants fan too. So, and Alec will love this. The guy next to me was a Giants fan, and he was talking about the Giants, and then he says, "You can't spell elite without Eli," and that was a great one-liner. So, there was some representation for your people out there. But this is the last Sunday sweats of the season, which is crazy to think of that. Thank you to everybody who's watched throughout the season. Thank you, Josh, for being the co-host with me. Thank you, Adam, for being, again, a co-host, friend of the program here. Thank you, producer Alec, for doing a phenomenal job behind the scenes. Again, setting all this up, giving us what we need to make this a successful show. And again, thank you to the audience. Again, you guys have been tuning in every week. Hopefully we've helped you win some bets. I know, again, we just love the banter. We love to talk to you guys, and we have plenty more content coming for NBA, which we have Coast to Coast, starring Joe Delara and Andrew O'Connor-Watts. We have another show coming for MLB. We'll have another show coming for golf. Rithmm is here for all of your betting needs. If you haven't downloaded the app, scan that QR code right above Adam's head. Other way, Josh.
There you go. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Tell them what they definitely Remind them what are we throwing in for free if they download now.
It's a free 7-day trial. You get free predictions for the Super Bowl with Rithmm. So best time to do it. Try it out now. Get ready for NBA and college basketball and win some freaking Super Bowl bets, just like the Eagles are going to win this game. So
go Birds.
Thanks for tuning in all season. And in one last, go Birds.
Don't bet against Mahomes, man. I'm telling you.
We'll see what happens, Josh. I hope I'm on Broad Street on Sunday night and Wednesday, and I will happily send out a video to you saying, I bet against Mahomes and I'm happy.
No, I hear you. You'll tear down Philadelphia either in happiness or in sadness. Either way, Philly's burning. So good luck.
I got my resistant Eagles gear ready to go, so we're good. But all right, well, thank you, everybody. Go Birds, and talk to you next season.